All right, it's time to skol with the enemy, Vikings Colts style. All right, welcome back to the Onebar and Lupagus show. I'm Lupagus here with Cody Felger from Bring the Juice podcast. One of the first teams we've ever had skooling with the enemy 2 years ago when we first started this. Welcome back. How are you doing?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm good. Wish I could feel better about the Colts right now than I do. We were talking off air. Just it's crazy how your defense obviously really struggled a week ago, and our offense has just been a struggle this whole year. So it's kind of weakness on weakness a little bit. It'll be interesting to see, which team gains the advantage, I suppose.
Absolutely. And I want to start with that. I mean, is it me or did the Colts had high expectations, right? I mean, what happened this year? Where did the wheels fall off on this thing?
Yeah, I think twofold. Number one, I would say the offensive line has not been what it's, what a lot of people hyped it up to be. And I think, GM Chris Ballard deserves a lot of the blame there for going into the offseason, going into this season, not really having a plan at left tackle. Now you're playing a third-round rookie who's had his lumps. But I think the bigger one is you had two guys that you let walk in free agency that were huge parts of your offensive line last year. And you let him go for pennies on the dollar for some odd reason, and then the guy you had as a replacement isn't even a starter anymore. If that tells you how bad it's been. And then some of your star guys, some of your guys that you paid big money to, Ryan Kelly, Quentin Nelson, Braden Smith, they've all kind of had down years. I would say Ryan Kelly definitely has been the most noticeable. He's a top 10 center a couple of years ago, and now he's kind of dropped off. And I don't know quite what the reason is for that. But he's definitely not lived up to that contract the Colts extended him to. And Quentin Nelson, I don't know what's going on with him, but he's just not the same player he was a few years ago. So I would say that's number one, is the offensive line has not been the same as it's been in the years past, especially when we met, a couple years ago. But also the quarterback. It's crazy. I think a lot of us, when you brought in Matt Ryan, we expected a lot more, maybe not physically. Like haven't been surprised by anything physically from him. It's more the mental game. He's really struggled to identify things, things that for, a guy that's been in the league, 15, 20 years, you expect him to be able to read a defense, kind of like Phillip Rivers was able to a couple of years ago. And it seems like the mental aspect for Matt Ryan is something that I think a lot of us are very surprised. It's really been an issue this year in a lot of ways. Now, I'm not saying it's all been Matt Ryan, but the quarterback position, you should be able to identify things that he's not identifying. I can't tell you how many times there were, it was very obvious what the opposing defense was doing. And for some reason, we still, Matt Ryan didn't do anything about it. And he took a big hit, and he takes hits and got injured for a couple weeks. And it's just been one of those years, man, where the offense has been so bad, tank bad, but the defense has been playoff level. So it's crazy how different both of these units are. And the weird thing with this Colts offense, especially, they have Jonathan Taylor. They have Michael Pittman. They have some of these skilled guys, tight end wide receivers that have actually looked really good. I think going into this offseason, that's probably a position I would not really touch because I feel like you've addressed running back, wide receiver, and tight end pretty well. It's just the offensive line, and especially the quarterback, have been so bad that has brought down this entire offense the whole year.
Yeah, and you mentioned the quarterbacks, the Rivers to the Wentz to the Matt Ryan. I mean, what's going to happen next year? Is it Mariota coming in, Tom Brady, Matt Stafford? Or are they finally going to go with the rookie quarterback and address that position in the draft?
I don't see how you don't. It's because you're what, number 7 overall, and that's sure to go up because you're playing still some good teams. And there's teams like, Carolina and some other teams that I think, still could win a couple more games. And the Colts just find ways to lose, man. They just absolutely find ways to lose. There's multiple games this year where they definitely should have won. The Philadelphia game, they were leading in that game. Even the Dallas game, that should have been more of a competitive game. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of these games that they're in that they, for some reason, just don't finish. They don't know how to finish very well. The quarterback position is one they absolutely cannot afford to kick the can down the road anymore. They've already done it for years. Obviously the Rivers experiment was pretty good for a year, but that was only a temporary fix. The Wentz experiment wasn't good. didn't it set you back for a couple of years. And then, this year with Matt Ryan, you expected things that from Matt Ryan that Carson Wentz didn't have from a mental aspect. And you just haven't got that at all. So absolutely on board with, do what every other good team has done, perennial playoff team has done, and go and get your guy. Like, I don't care what it takes. Maybe you trade away some good players, but if you find your star quarterback, at the end of the day, that's worth it to me.
Yep. Absolutely. Again, we're here with Cody Felger from Bring the Juice podcast, one of the original SKOL'ings we ever started with. Again, I want to talk about Jeff Saturday. He was kind of shockingly named the interim head coach. What was your feelings when that was announced, and what are your feelings about him now a few games into it?
I think, at first I was shocked because I'm like, I didn't even know Jeff Saturday coached, and I guess he did in high school a little bit. So it's just I know we've had former players before that have gone on, like Mike Vrabel is the first one that comes to mind to become coaches, but like they were assistants and they did other things to get up there. And so the fact that Jeff Saturday just kind of got handed the keys, although I will say I think a lot of people have blown it out of proportion because, and again, it is just an interim job. It's not like, oh, Jeff's going to be the guy for the next 5 to 10 years. He could be, but I think at this point I was like, look, you need to see what you got in a couple of these guys. And from my understanding, what Jeff Saturday's role is kind of just to evaluate, just see, the current state of the roster. And, because Jim Irsay obviously trusts Jeff Saturday a lot to do that. So yeah, I guess I would say it was a bit of a surprise. I think I was more just like baffled by why, do you fire your offensive coordinator and then a week later turn around and fire your head coach? Like, just let Frank Reich ride it out the rest of the year. Like, that just made no sense. I think more than the Saturday thing to me, obviously that was a surprise, but to me it was like, why are we firing our entire offensive staff at this point in the season? Yeah. And it just was very odd. And then now the Colts have just lost another guy. So I think they have 3 guys now on the offensive staff. It's gotten to that point, man, where it's that bad. But yeah, just a really weird situation. I've never seen anything quite like it.
It's like one of those things someone in the comments will say, we should hire Jeff Saturday. And everybody's like, it never happened. And then it goes ahead and it happens. Yeah, it's nuts. I want to talk about your rookie tight end, Jelani Woods. He was one of my man crushes this year in the draft. Wanted him so bad. You guys got him in round 3. How has he been? What's his future? Are you excited about this kid or not?
Yes, very much excited about Jelani. The issue has been he hasn't really gotten the ball consistently. A couple weeks ago against Pittsburgh, he had his best game, over 100 yards. He was looking fantastic in that game. And then in Dallas, he doesn't get into the fourth quarter, and you're like, what are we doing? Like, we're not putting our best weapons out there. So I think Jelani, there's a lot of potential there. He's beginning to show it. Still has some things he needs to work on, 3rd-round pick. So there's still things he's raw in, but the raw athletic talent and the playmaking ability, it's crazy, man. It's been so cool to see that on display. It's like every time the Colts target and throw the ball to Jelani Woods, good things happen. So I just wish they would do that a little bit more. For a team that's struggling so much offensively, you would think they'd want to look at Jelani Woods a lot and get him a lot of targets, but it hasn't really been the case a whole lot. But again, the Colts do like to run a lot of 2-3 tight end sets. They have another pretty good young tight end in Kylan Granson too. So, but Jelani Woods is definitely a threat anywhere on the field, and it's great to have that kind of size advantage and athletic advantage because the Colts have another big tight end in Mo Alley Cox, but Jelani blows him out of the water in terms of athleticism. So, yeah, I love Jelani. I think his future is very bright here with the Colts.
Good. I was finally right about somebody. Usually I'm not. So, again, we're here with Cody Felger from Bring the Juice podcast. Link to his page will be in the description. Follow him up on Twitter as well. All right, so give me a sneaky Colt, maybe someone you don't hear much about who's actually playing very, very well this season.
That's a good question. I'll give you one on offense and one on defense. So a guy that nobody really talks about, and maybe they do, but I don't really hear a lot of people talking about. I feel like Alec Pierce has played really well, given the circumstances. I mean, he had a really good day against Dallas, and and a lot of people like to overshadow just how bad this Colts offense has been. But Alec Pierce has been probably the best receiver on the Colts this year. And that's including Michael Pittman. I think he has been the most consistent guy. He wins on those deep balls, and he just does. He's a really nice compliment to Pittman. So I'd say him for offense. Defense, Isaiah Rodgers has to take the cake here. The cornerback 2 right now for the Colts. I mean, this dude he's one of the best corners in the NFL that nobody's talking about. And every time he's on the field, kind of like Jelani, good things happen typically. So he's a very underrated corner, a bit undersized, but, is so fast. He's so athletic, and he's a ball hawk, man. He takes the ball away, and he's really one of the best cover corners in the league. So those two guys are definitely guys to watch out for.
Okay, noted. I'll keep an eye on those guys. So what do these 4-8-1 Colts, what do they do well?
What do they do well? Good question. I think what they do well is their defense is very good for the most part, except for the fourth quarter in Dallas. I would say they do a good job. Like they're really good in the secondary. They're really stout in the secondary. They have two really good corners, Stephon Gilmore and Isaiah Rodgers. And they do a really good job. And I feel like all the DBs have really been playing pretty well for the Colts, all things considered. So they do a really good job of being able to kind of shut down some of those number one receivers, that you have. And so I definitely think Stephon Gilmore is going to be on Justin Jefferson a whole lot in this game. He's still got it. He's definitely shown that. And I think it's going to be a good matchup, actually, to see, your two receivers versus Colts two cornerbacks. I think that's going to really determine this game in a lot of ways.
All right. So what is this Colts team's biggest weakness?
Like I said, I mean, really, if you can get them one-dimensional and make them pass it, it's pretty much over. That's kind of what, like, Matt Ryan can't really win them games anymore. I've kind of noticed, it's like the Colts will get a drive going, and you're like, oh, okay, maybe they figured it out offensively, and then they'll shoot themselves in the foot. They'll get a holding call, legal man down the field. Matt Ryan will fumble it or throw a boneheaded interception. Like, that's just been the Colts season this year. So even if they get in long drives, can probably more than likely count on them, kind of shooting themselves in the foot more than you even doing something. So, yeah, I would definitely say the offense, just their miscues, and that stems from, I think, the quarterback position. That's just this team offensively this year, unfortunately.
Well, I don't know if you saw the stat or not. The Vikings defense is getting up over 400 yards the last 5 games. So if you guys can't do it, there is something really wrong with you guys. It's definitely something wrong. All right, so the game got bumped this Saturday. I don't know if that threw a wrench in your plans or not. Ideally, I like it Sunday myself. But how do you see this game on Saturday, first one of the triple-header, shaking out?
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys definitely, I think it was a wake-up call for you against Detroit. So I do think the Vikings bounce back in a big way here. This Colts team right now, I mean, they don't have an identity. They don't know who they are. I think the defense could keep this game relatively close until, the fourth quarter. But I ultimately see the Vikings pulling it off because they're a better coached football team. They're just a better, more talented team in general. And they have some of the most important positions figured out. They have the quarterback position figured out. They have some of these things that the Colts just don't have, honestly, right now. So I think I see the Vikings taking this one for sure.
I like it. I like the way you think, and I hope you're right, because let's get this North cinched up and not to worry about it anymore, because these Lions are creeping up on us, I tell you.
Right.
All right, man. Appreciate you hopping on again. Cody Felger from Bring the Juice podcast. Hit him up. Follow the links below. Give him a little harassment this week as we prepare for the game on Sunday, man. Appreciate it. Happy holidays. Again, thanks for SKOL'ing with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take her easy.